Healing isn't one moment. It's progress, perspective, learning what works for you. This is The Healing Side. Conversations about growth, mindset, and the journey toward a healthier, stronger life.
Welcome to The Healing Side. I am your host, Donald Dunn. Today's guest is Tara Mae Temple, a communications professional with over 15 years in advertising and healthcare fundraising, and the author of Life Hacks for Healing and Harmony. With a background in sociology and a passion for evidence-based strategies, Tara brings a powerful perspective on healing, faith, and women's empowerment. Her journey from deep personal struggle to true harmony is both inspiring and practical. Let's welcome Tara to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Tara? Welcome to The Healing Side.
Thank you, Donald. It's so good to be here with you.
So let's dive right into it. Tara, give us a snapshot of your journey. What led you from advertising and communications into writing about healing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I felt like I was an explorer in my career path because I tried so many avenues from advertising to marketing to healthcare fundraising. And I spent about 15 years in that sphere, exploring different roles. And what I liked about each of those was, I was being of service to others in different ways. I know that when I started off in advertising, there's something that just felt very superficial about it, where I felt like I was, not affecting anyone in a positive way. And it felt like a corporate greed machine. So I felt like I was living the status quo of, advertising, commercialism, and, contributing to a capitalist society. And that was not within the realm of my values. So then I switched over to healthcare fundraising, helping raise money for a hospital, and worked for a ton of charities that were health related as well. But what I saw a shift in my career where I felt like I was being energized by doing my work in communications, but helping to bring donors in to raise money to make healthcare better for people in Canada. So that really resonated with me. But after a while, when I've reached the very peak of my career I believe I made a shift in 2019. I was a manager of direct marketing at a hospital, was making the largest salary I've ever made in the span of my career. And, I thought it would be fulfilling and happy for me. And that was so not the case with me. I got in, I was super excited to have job security and to be able to provide for my family. But as I was moving through, that management role and learning new things about how to be a better leader and how to lead a team. Yes, I was adding to my skills on my resume, but there was something in my heart, in my mind, in my body, in my soul that was telling me that, pulling me in a different direction. I've always had a passion for writing and storytelling. And in my spare time, I would read a lot of different books, and I was into self-help. And that's truly where my heart was. So in 2020, I reached a part in my life where came up against a health crisis, and all these signs were pushing me towards, resigning from my job, putting my health first, and going on a self-discovery journey to really figure out what my purpose was. Because I knew it wasn't the title or the money or, the wealth and the things that I can accumulate in that position on the corporate ladder. I knew that it was something that I had to go deeper and do some soul searching. And so when I left my corporate career, early 2020, I went on, a hiatus and went on that self-discovery to figure out writing was what I love to do, writing and editing. So what I do now is I edit people's books, and they're mostly nonfiction. And my book that I wrote from 2020 up to 2025, I've been trying to get this published, and now it's officially out and just was released this past January. It's a story of everything I've went through in my life, and I was able to use my storytelling talents to be able to let people see how they can overcome different things like anxiety, fear, illness, finding their purpose, and really going through a self-discovery journey. So that's it in a nutshell. I can go on and on with this, but that's what led me to writing, is that I really needed to overcome certain things in my life, but I used it as a tool also to create a mission to help people achieve inner peace. So my stories turn into harmony strategies, and they're strategies that the reader could use in their lives to reach their highest potential, find joy and peace in their life.
Yeah, so I am kind of in the marketing and advertising industry as well. I own a company called Barracks Media, and I can tell you it is absolutely a grind.
Yes.
It is not an easy career. It is a tough industry, and I can tell exactly with what you're saying that we can resonate with each other, because I too kind of led into this. I got a company called Dunn Trucking when I got out of the military, made lots of money, always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was not happy either. So money is not the all end and be all, I now make a lot less money, and I'm podcast full time and absolutely love it. I still have to work a little bit on the sides here and there, but for the most part, this is what I do. And it's because this was the calling for me. So I completely get what you're saying when you said that things were still kind of pushing you over towards the healthcare industry and writing about it. I can't share your passion for editing. I'm sorry, but my first 3 books, the editing process, I hated it.
Yep.
I struggled, but that's why there's people like you out there that we could pay to do it. So
yeah, for sure. And I love what you say there, Donald, because when you talk about doing the podcasting full time, I can hear it in your voice that you really light up. And I'm sure it's the stories you hear from people and the connections you make along the way that really make it feel fulfilling for you. And I'm so glad that you got there and you're able to, disseminate this message to your listeners and people out there, because some people haven't figured it out yet. And until you get there, it's like the self-discovery journey can be a rough road. So I'm so happy you have your podcast and your platform out there for others.
yeah, you are right on. I mean, yeah, I would, I would pay to do this, even, though I don't make any money. It pretty much breaks even and covers itself for my expenses. But I strongly recommend anybody this, especially writing as well. When I wrote my first book, all my books except for one are all nonfiction, and I wrote my first book called Echoes of War: The Silent Transition of a Soldier. It was about the things that my family didn't know that I went through, things I never shared with them, and I wrote it as a document to share what had happened, to kind of give them answers on why I wasn't the same person before combat versus after, because I never shared that stuff with them. And after I started healing and got some help, and I realized, the reason why there was so much problems internally within the family was because I never shared those things with them. And so writing that nonfiction book was therapeutic. And I think
Yes.
podcasting can be the same way. So I personally love nonfiction. I still continue to write.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on another book now, but at the end of the day, writing isn't just about a career. You know, there's passion that comes from it. There's artistic ability, and storytelling is healing for multiple people, the listener, the reader, and the person doing it. Do you find that same source of healing and being therapeutic as well when you are doing it? Did I lose you, Miss Tara?
Yeah, I'm going through to lean emotionally for me. And writing was very cathartic. And what it did is it, really helped me purify those toxic emotions still sitting in my mind, body, and spirit. And it's funny, I can resonate with what you said, how you wrote about things your family didn't know about you. And as my book is out now, I'm having people come to me that are saying, I really didn't know this about you. And, it's like surprising to me that you went through all this stuff. And, it only all starts pouring out through the writing. And it's only through the writing that you're able to express and articulate what struggles were. And, you I really makes sense of that. It come to and that's okay. People change. The people that are meant to be in your life will be there and accept the new version of you. So that's what I want people to know. Don't push someone out of your life because they seem different or they seem like they've changed a lot. It's because they've gone through struggle and are finding a way through to overcome what they're going through, to find a better version of themselves.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So you emphasize evidence-based strategies. What does that mean in practical terms?
Yeah, so a lot of my book, a lot of the strategies that I talk about are nothing new. They are just simple, everyday things that people could use to make their lives a little better. So, say, for example, someone's really dealing with very high anxiety or have deep fears about certain things. I talk about deep breathing, the 478 breathing technique, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and breathe out for 8 seconds. And you do that on a loop. Now, it's something that's so simple that you could do. But if you haven't done the breathing techniques before and you're suffering with overwhelm, anxiety, and you're just having these paranoid thoughts about like the worst case scenarios happening, these little small techniques can help. And there's a bunch more things I talk about in my book that are called negative thought cancellation and rewriting your self-limiting beliefs. These are all things that people know about, but I speak about them from a place of I've done the research on what works. And then I implemented them in my own life, dealing with the various things that I dealt with, whether that be identity crisis, self-image struggles, dealing with culture dynamics coming from a Filipino background, dealing with parent-child relationships as an adult, and much more things like grief and illness and other things like overcoming our ego. So that's what I mean by evidence-based things.
This episode is brought to you by Barracks Media, where your online presence becomes a real asset. Barracks Media builds professional websites for podcasters, creators, authors, and small businesses who are ready to be taken seriously. Not templates, not cookie-cutter pages, real platforms built to grow with you. Whether you're launching a podcast, promoting a book, or building a brand, your website should work as hard as you do. We design sites that convert listeners into followers and followers into clients. Visit barracksmedia.com and turn your idea into a home on the web.
There are things that are already set out in stone out there that have been studied by other people, and many people, use it as a tool for self-care.
Okay, yeah, and I think that is awesome, because the last book that I wrote talks about how to use some of those techniques you were talking about. There's visualization techniques, there's breathing techniques, and there's a lot of these types of I call them performance psychology strategies that will actually help lower blood pressure. It will help with the flight and fight responses. It will help with decision making process when under pressure. All of those techniques it will truly help, and breathing especially will bring you and center you back into a spot where you can, one, calm down and make better thoughts and better decisions. And I think that it's awesome that you're coming from a place of not just preaching, but practicing as well.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing thing, because healing is not linear, and like we all have different healing modalities at our fingertips, but there's some that work for a variety of things. And like you mentioned, there's some techniques out there that will help lower your blood pressure or your stress cortisol levels. And one of those that I did research on was and then experienced myself is connecting with nature again. And if anyone has read the book, The Comfort Crisis, there's something called the 25-3 rule, which is spend 20 minutes outdoors at least 3 times a week. And I believe it was like 5 hours in wild nature, and then 3 days a week in wilder nature, like camping in the wilderness. So that is a tool that I use that really helped to, reset my mind and anxiety and bring down the cortisol levels drastically. But there's studies that have been out there that people that commune with nature more are more peaceful and joyful. And, you can really put things into perspective by getting in touch with nature again.
I never thought about that, but I can see how that would relate. Kind of going back through, when I was younger, me and my wife did a lot of camping, and that time frame is really special. A lot of people hold that time with their family as very special events that they remember for years. And it comes from a place of being able to get back to the very basics and being able to appreciate the basics in a world where we strive to get more and become better and bigger and all these types of things in the world that we live today. So going back to the basics, like you said, camping, or just even hiking through nature is very therapeutic. I did that quite a bit when I was younger, as far as hunting. A lot of times I would, go squirrel hunting, and most of the time I'd end up finding a tree and just sitting there and thinking and meditating and relaxing and just taking in the sights. Very rarely did I ever even find anything to shoot at. It was just overwhelming to find how much peace was out there in the silence. And I think
this show is part of the Barracks Media Network, built by veterans, creators, and storytellers who believe stories change lives. Barracks Media produces podcasts, books, and digital content that amplify voices worth hearing. We help creators launch, grow, and monetize their message without losing their soul. If you've got a story in you or a show in your head, Go to barracksmedia.com and start building something that lasts.
Yes. And I love that you mentioned that, because it's like, how did you feel when in those moments? Did it feel like, it just feels like freedom, right? Or you
Absolutely.
feel, yeah, because you're not forced to be anywhere. You could just be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. My cell phone didn't work because where I'd go, there was absolutely zero cell phone service. So that was always a plus. And again, like I said, you just sit there and when it's silent and you hear, the nuts hitting the ground and the leaves hitting the ground and the trees, swinging and the brush going, it becomes kind of musical, and it's very
Mhm.
calming. So it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me want to go out there right now. Even though it's freezing cold here in Canada, it makes me want to go for a walk in the forest and just hear the sounds, like the animals roaming around in the trees. And yeah, it's so peaceful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do a lot of people misunderstand about healing?
I think that especially now with our hustle culture, it's all about, getting the self-care in. And, like, there's a big misconception that, you could just do a couple things like go to therapy, journal, have a gratefulness practice, just add all those things to the mix, and yeah, you'll be fine. But that's totally wrong. It's like the opposite of what happens in healing. Healing is not linear. Healing is messy and can come in waves.
Yeah.
Once you think you are healed and I've gone through a spiritual awakening. Things are still going to come up where life ebbs and flows, and you're still going to face obstacles. And those are going to be the times where, yes, you're tested, but you're going to have to take out what you have from your toolbox and try to apply those as best as you can. And if you can't, like what's really an important ingredient to healing is having compassion for yourself. Like if you can have love and compassion and acceptance for yourself and others, that will really help you overcome what you need to heal through, because some people are still holding on to their wounds, their past hurts, and all these things. And, we need to spend time constantly tending to them, not only disciplining our mind through meditation, but, purifying our mind, body, souls, and letting go of that heaviness. Um, so healing is definitely a journey, and that's why a lot of people go on a discovery journey of trying out different healing modalities to see what works best for them. And I highly encourage that. And in my book, I propose a ton of different things, but I always say healing is never a one size fits all solution, because everybody's different, and whatever works for you doesn't work for another person. So I encourage people to experiment with what works, whether that be, I've heard a lot about psilocybin and, taking mushrooms to help you heal. And that has been very liberating for some people. And then getting in touch with their spirituality and faith again. That has really been healing for a lot of people as well, but it really depends on what works for you. So I'm not done yet. This is my first book that's out, and it's the first wave of my journey, and life happens in cycles. So I'm looking forward to what other healing things I could start tapping into, whether that be somatic therapy and some other stuff, because the things we carry still live in our bodies. So that's definitely one thing I'd like to explore.
Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest components right there is that we think of the problem being the latest problem, right? And
Correct.
what people fail to realize is, they deal with traumas and adversary over and over and over. It's just some stuff they grab a hold of it and pack it inside. And And once you get to that point where you're so full of all this negativity and trauma and everything else that's going on, that thing that happens to be on the top might not be the thing that you really needed the healing from. It could have been something that you packed away years ago. And so that unpacking process is what I think shocks a lot of people as well, is they don't even realize that some of the stuff that they just packed away that maybe didn't infect them at that moment as much as they thought, becomes a bigger issue when you start combining all this stuff and unpacking it and sorting through it. And that means just exactly what you said. Not every type of healing is going to work for everything that's going on. You have to be willing to say, okay, I tried this. I honestly gave it my best effort. It didn't work. Let me learn from that and try something else.
Yes, exactly. And I love that, because you're not pigeonholing yourself into, getting it done right. And, it's not a performative thing. That's not what healing's about. It's,
right.
Giving yourself the space to try out new things and realize that there's layers to healing, and it could be something deeper that you're dealing with. As you described, it may not be that one problem that you think it is. It may be deeper than that. And I believe in that, because I was studying Louise Hay's book, and she's talking about health and different health conditions that you're dealing with, and how those are all linked to emotional and psychological concerns or issues that you have buried deep or suppressed within you. So it makes sense, like, it helps people to understand, like, if you're having some sort of health conditions as a result of some emotional or psychological trauma that you've been through, it's going to translate in one way to you having symptoms in your body. So yeah, I find that very interesting as well.
Yeah, I think the other part to that is that people that as they start going through this, right? They how is the word? We talked about love. You have to love yourself, and I think there's two things of grace that we don't never give ourselves. We one think that after we're done healing, or after we're going through the healing experiences, that we're going to magically be the original person before all this happened. And that is not going to happen. You are healing from the stuff. You're not getting rid of it to the point where it never happened. So you have to be willing to love the new you. And that takes time. With any type of person that you're going to love, you have to get to know that person. You have to learn to accept the new you, get to know the new you, and then eventually learn to love the new you. And then not put a time frame on this. It's not a marathon. There is no finish line or reward at the end of the day, other than a little bit of peace. But like you said, it still continues to go. It's not like, okay, now I'm healing, nothing bad will ever happen to me again. That's not the case at all. But the education that you're getting from this, will help you in the future as well. And maybe you'll learn to not pack so much stuff away before you start dealing with it.
Yes. And I love that. It's taking one baby step at a time. Like, through the struggle, there's still little slivers of joy that you can experience, and you can allow yourself to heal, but allow yourself to also experience joy as well. Because that's everyone's birthright. You're born into this world to have an experience and have joy, and not just live in the misery and the pain and the trauma. We're not meant to stay there, and that sometimes could be too deep for people to go through. And I want people to know that you're not alone. Use podcasts like Donald's podcast to get you through the hard times, because you can learn a whole lot by just listening to people's stories. So that's what I highly encourage. Podcasts have been a heaven sent for me through my healing journey. And they also help me as a writer to put things into perspective. And I use it as sort of like an inspirational input to give me ideas of different things to write about.
Yeah, I agree with 100%. There is, a lot of people don't understand how powerful storytelling is, and how much, we can still learn from each other, and not have to necessarily make all the same mistakes, but we can learn from other people's mistakes, and then also at the same time learn to not judge other people for the mistakes they made, because we're all in that same situation. We've all made mistakes in some sort of way or another. And I think once you get past that, and you get open-minded and you start listening to people say, you really find yourself to not be so different, and that you can understand where they come from, and kind of walk those same shoes, and maybe even help figure out some of your own problems based off of the things that you're hearing from others. So I agree 100%.
Yeah, and I love that what you mentioned there, Donald, is, can we find human ground amongst one another's stories to bring us together and unify us as a humanity with what's going on now around the world. If we come together to, lift each other up, as a collective whole, I think there's strength in that. And light always overpowers the dark, right? So
Yep.
I think if you get more people on that side of believing in their potential and seeing their light, and that you are love and you are meant to have joy and peace on this earth. Don't try not to get caught up in the dark side. There's people out there that can coach you and help bring you out of that, but it takes conscious effort and acceptance, and little baby steps of doing something daily to help get you there, to be more loving and less judgmental of yourself and of others.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit on your book. The title, I absolutely love the title, Life Hacks for Healing and Harmony. Where did you come up with this name?
Yeah, it's I've always had this, since I was young, I've always had this the word harmony and peace. And, I grew up with a deep faith, and since I was young, I was always dreaming about or praying about, world peace and all this stuff. But I knew it had to be a title that would resonate with people, that would give them hope. So I thought, okay, people like hacks, life hacks, and it sounds practical. But it sounds also, liberating. Life hacks for healing and harmony. Some people don't usually like the word healing in and of itself. So I believe harmony was added in to let people know that they have access to joy, and having peace liberate them.
Yeah, it makes sense, because I think the order that you put it in too, right? Instead of saying harmony and healing, you have to go through the healing first to find that harmony on the other side. And it is very difficult. It's not easy. And, I always tell everybody, as you're going through it, there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days, but just remember, at the end of the day, you got to get through the days. And once you do, you're going to find so many things that you're going to let go. Things that you're going to understand why you made decisions during those other periods that maybe you don't agree with now, but you're going to understand the why. You're going to understand what happened. You're going to understand how to let the negative go and hold on to the pieces that you need to hold on to. And all of that comes from taking it one day at a time and not getting in a hurry. That's the biggest part is there's no step, there's no magic door that you walk through that gets you from the beginning to the end and you skip the whole middle. You can't heal that way, and it's just not going to work.
Yes. There's no shortcuts, right?
No, absolutely not. And,
Yep.
and, that's the other part, that the veteran community is dealing with so much now is the mental health situations overwhelmed the medical abilities. And so everybody was just shoved on drugs. And what nobody understood at that time was, oh, I feel better, so I guess the drugs have worked. No, the drugs have numbed the responses to the symptoms that you're having. You haven't done anything to even begin the healing process. You've still got to work through that stuff, or you're going to be taking these drugs forever and just never dealing with it. And that's the part that people don't understand, because it's not like a physical treatment. There's no cast or no medication that's going to heal this and make it gone. It takes talking, it takes getting that weight off you. It takes, finding the way that works. Journaling is awesome. I tell everybody, sit down and write your story. Tell it like you're writing a book. You don't have to publish it. That's not the point. The point is that you took the time to write it down, and you're going to find yourself actually thinking through things as you're writing them. And you're going to get a lot of the answers that you want just from the writing process. For me, I remember a lot of times I was sitting there writing my story and I'm thinking, what an asshole, this guy sucks. And the other part was, but I understand why he did what he did. I now get it. And you can see the whole process unfolding in front of yourself. And if you get nothing else out of it, you're going to at least get a little bit of grace and understanding and be able to forgive yourself for some of the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah, I love that, Donald. That's so amazing. You put that so eloquently, because, sometimes our minds ruminate so much that once you get it out and write about it and express it all on paper, that's how you can see the whole story, and nothing goes unmissed in that way. And, you see your whole story before your very eyes. And once you read through that after you're finished writing, it's almost like your life is a movie screen. And, yes, you've gone through all those obstacles, and, you didn't like the other version of yourself previous, because I know I've been there as well. I've made mistakes and didn't like my dark side and all these things that I messed up on. But when you come to read that, and it kind of lights a fire under you and makes you want to be better in this next chapter of your life. How can I be better myself, not only for my family and friends, but to help uplift others and show people it's okay to fail. It's okay for others to reject you, or for things not to work out in your favor, because what God in the universe has something better planned for you. And you may not see it that way. It may not be within the status quo of having the status of wealth, power, control, and having nice things. Like I said, I don't I'm not out there to make a ton of money with the book. I'm more here to impact people. And I'm having more joy and fulfillment right now with just getting my word out there and talking to people like you that can really resonate with helping others heal.
Yeah. Yeah. This next topic I want to talk about, because it really does fascinate me. And you're a big advocate for women's issues, and what challenges are women facing that need more attention?
Oh, yes. The big one is, I think, self-image struggles. And, I think a lot of women deal with perfectionism and wanting to please other people around them in their circles. And, if you can't overcome perfectionism or overcome, not accepting yourself and coming to a place of radical self-acceptance, it can be very hard to show up in your life the way you want to and have, healthy relationships with others, because, in those circumstances where women are dealing with self-image struggles, they don't like the way they look. They're always trying to attain a different appearance and comparing their image to other women out there. And then women that are dealing with perfectionism, in a lot of cases, we're dealing with very low self-esteem. So unless we can overcome ways unless we can get to a place of boosting our self-esteem, we won't be able to thrive. So in my book, I do mention a lot of things about what I went through, dealing with, very negative comments of people towards me. I was basically dealt with body shaming my whole life, and how that affected me as an adult, and how I really had to say affirmations every day and look myself in the mirror and say, I am beautiful. I'm a kind person and I care about others. And, I'm comfortable in my body and my skin now because I wasn't born into this world, and God didn't want me to be like anybody else. I'm just
Yep.
myself, and I don't need to look like anybody else. So, being my own best friend, and, writing affirmations out and just looking at myself in the mirror and saying, you've been through different things, and yeah, you didn't like the comments people said to you. You didn't enjoy the bullying you went through in grade school and all this stuff. You have to come to that acceptance and then build yourself up again and have a different perception towards yourself. So it's a lot of things, I know a lot of women deal with that, and it takes years to overcome it, but it can be done.
Yeah. The reason why I said I really like this topic, I had a friend, and this happened very early in my podcasting career. So about 4 years ago, she was a medic in the Army. I served with her, and she later became a doctor. Got her degree, and now she's still serving in the reserves, but she's also a family practitioner. And she started a nonprofit, and it blew my mind when she explained this. She started a nonprofit that raises money to go towards science research on how PTSD specifically affects women. And when she said that, it first hit me like, well, what do you mean? I mean, PTSD affects everybody. And then I started thinking about it. The way men handle things and the way women handle things is completely different. And the way you're going to have to reach each individual is going to be completely different. And that fact that she's doing that to raise awareness that our current medical system treats everybody as, we all have brains, so it's non-sexual, right? So doesn't matter if you're male, doesn't matter if you're female, we all have brains, and we're going to deal with PTSD at a mental level. And that necessarily doesn't work. One of the things I've learned about people with PTSD and depression is the very first obstacle is trust. If they can't trust you and they don't feel that you can resonate with their situation, everything else is a waste of time. And if we don't get to that level where we're understanding, and this is where the VA has huge problems, is because now we're dealing with women who have PTSD, men who have PTSD, and then the war lasted for so long, 20 years. That's what, 2, potentially 3 different generations worth of people that all have to be dealt with in different ways and resonate in different ways. And it becomes very difficult. So I really love when people are taking on these issues and they're getting down to the root cause and doing things specifically for helping narrow some of these problems down. And I'm not one of those big activists that believe, in women power, man power, and everything else. But I do believe when it comes to healing and when it comes to fixing things, those things have to be taken into consideration, because it is common for women when they're dealing with trauma to hide it. They feel, like you said, that they have to be the nurturer, taking care. They don't want the kids to see that there's any problems. So a lot of the problems don't even get noticed until it's too late.
Yes, you're so right. Women, it's hidden. It's the invisible struggle that women face.
Nope.
And that men face as well. It's all invisible. We don't know what people are going through.
Yeah. And I think with men, it's a little bit more visible because we respond, we have no issues with showing anger. It's showing compassion was where we have the problems, but we get upset, depressed, or whatever. You're going to see it because it's going to come out in anger, and it's going to be put in front of everybody to see that there's something wrong. And that's where the big difference is. If somebody's hiding things, I know this is not a good example of a woman, but the one thing that comes to my mind is Robin Williams, the actor. Nobody would have ever known that he was going to commit suicide. Impossible to have guessed, but I believe that same scenario is very common on the woman side of the healing, is those problems get hidden until there's an attempt on life or something goes very, very bad. And at that point, everybody said, "Oh man, I didn't even see it coming." And that is exactly why. So it is really cool that somebody is taking on, the fact that they're trying to put money into researching it. How do we fix this? Part of it is a society problem. We have put that women in that place to feel that way based off of society, and it says, hey, this is where women fit, when it's not accurate, it's not correct, but that's where it has came from. So how do you fight back from that? What are some of the things that you're seeing that women can do to understand that they don't have to fit in a role? They need to fit in who they are, not in what society thinks they should be.
Yeah, I love that question because I'm all about, yes, women play a role of mother, sister, daughter, granddaughter, whatever their job title is, and what they are in the community. And they also carry that role of friend, and loved one and all that stuff. But I want people to know that, you can't put a title on who you are. If we identify with those roles too much and we cling to them, we get lost. We end up self-abandoning ourselves, to the point where our needs are not met and we become, ridden with stress or anxiety. And then we get to a point where we're dealing with chronic stress, and then we can't take care of our family, and we're no good to anybody. So I want women to know, it's okay to give yourself rest. And, if you're not feeling well or you need some space to, do your meditation or just go for a walk or have 15 minutes of silence for yourself, that's you filling up your own bucket and, not caring about, you could still be a loving person that takes care of your family and is a good friend and all this stuff, but you can't be 10 places at once. You need to show up for yourself first. And, tell people if you can't, you don't have to say yes to everything that you're invited to, and stop trying to people please and, do everything for the family and everyone all at once. You can show up as best you can when you can, but give yourself that grace to have a breather, go for a walk, spend some time with the dog, clear your mind, listen to music, and have some very rituals that will make you feel whole and well rested. I think that's very important instead of just kind of going through the grind of everyday life and trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah, you said it best right there. Taking care of yourself does not mean you're greedy.
Yes.
There is a reason why when you're on an airplane, they tell you if the masks get deployed to put your mask on before you help somebody else with their mask. And that's because if you don't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be able to help anybody else.
Yes, I love that metaphor.
It's not greedy. It's not making you a bad person. It's a simple fact that if you can't be there for yourself, you'll never be able to be there for somebody else.
Yes, and that's an important lesson, and I'm glad you said it right there for listeners, Donald, because people, it's a skill you need to learn, and it'll feel uncomfortable to some people because they're not used to giving themselves that breathing space and taking care of themselves. But you'll thank yourself later. Trust me, you'll start to see a difference.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Miss Tara, can you tell everybody where can they find your book and follow you? And if you've got a web page, let them know where they can find that as well.
Yeah, great. And thank you for having me. You can find my book, Life Hacks for Healing and Harmony, in all Amazon marketplaces and fine retailers. Some of them are like indigo.ca online in Canada. It's also online at Barnes and Noble. It's on bookshop.org. It's at Waterstones UK and a website called booksamillion.com. So that's the place that you can find it. And then you can also reach me at www.terrasweetawakening.com. And there it tells you my whole story of what my mission is to help people achieve inner peace. It tells you a little bit about the book. And then you can subscribe to my newsletter to get free resources and a newsletter that I send out to help you lead a life of harmony. And as well, currently on my website, if you want to get a sense of my writing style, I do offer a free chapter if you just put in your email there on the book page. So those are ways you can reach me, and don't hesitate to contact me if you have any feedback or comments as well. And then I'm also on Instagram at Tara May Temple and Facebook, Tara May Temple.
All right. And we'll make sure that we get those links down there in the bottom for everybody to find and make it super simple. To all my listeners out there, not if, but when you go and buy this book, Life Hacks, I had a brain fart, Life Hacks for Healing and Harmony. When you go buy that book, make sure that after you're done reading it, you leave a review. It helps all the authors out there. You have no idea how much work goes behind the process of getting that book into your hands. So the least you can do is take 3 minutes and leave an honest review after you're done reading it. That will help Miss Tara out.
Yes,
make sure you go and follow her on all of her social medias and reach out to her and let her know what you thought of the book. Because at the end of the day, like she said, it's about getting it into people's hands and reading, not about making $1 million and becoming the next major author of the world. It's about sharing her passions and about her voice, and everybody understanding and getting to hear it is what this is about, and it's what the show is about. So I thank all of you guys for watching, listening, and Miss Tara, thank you so much for coming on the show. I had a great time.
Oh, thank you. It was such a great conversation. And Donald, you're such a great person. I wish you peace and harmony always. And I wish your listeners harmony. And, I'm open to everybody's feedback. If you have any thoughts, kind of coming up with ideas for a second book. So, I would love to hear from the listeners and build a community of healing with everybody. So it's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm so grateful.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. You all take care. Be safe. And we will catch y'all next side on the healing side.
You've been listening to The Healing Side, a podcast from the Barracks Media Network. Thanks to our guest for sharing their perspective, and thank you for listening. Find more conversations focused on growth and well-being across the Barracks Media Network. We'll see you next time.